Good evening, everyone. Welcome to New York Metro Weather's technical discussion for December 8th, 2012. And we have a lot to talk about here. Things are getting pretty interesting with the pattern as we move forward here into December. And this discussion will be tailored specifically towards the medium range discussion and in regards to winter weather. And a lot of our viewers this time of year are in the snow business, snow removal, or they may be interested in the prospects of seeing snow just in general. So we're going to kind of tailor this discussion towards those people specifically, but we'll also talk about the pattern and the reasons behind it, and try and break it down for you guys to give you an understanding of what we look at here on a daily basis as far as analyzing the pattern. What you're looking at here is the GFS model's forecast for this upcoming Monday, and you can see a trough here over the central United States. The mean trough is pretty broad. This is the main shortwave, and this one extending, elongating here. Let's just change this so it's going to bother me for the rest of the time if I don't. Oh man, this is brutal. Alright, here we are. So this is the mean trough in the central United States, and it's important to look at it and kind of get an idea of what's going on. You can see here's a southeast ridge. You can see as this storm tries to move to the east, it's going to hit this southeast ridge obviously and track up to the north and west of our area. And if you look down here towards the bottom right, with the precipitation and 850 millibar temperatures, you're getting a surge of southerly air ahead of this system. Up here a little bit, you can see the low pressure to our north, bringing in the warm air. 850 temperatures are 10 Celsius. Obviously, this is a warm pattern ahead of this. This is a cold front here draped through the Midwest United States, but this is a warm pattern. And this storm's going to bring down some cold air behind it, but not a whole lot of it, and we're going to explain to you why. Here's the pattern throughout the hemisphere. And you can see the main features in the United States, the trough over the central U.S., and the southeast ridge popping up and bringing above normal height anomalies in the middle of the atmosphere to the northeast and mid-Atlantic anomalies, the departure from normal with this height field. So you can see we have some quite anomalous features here across the globe at the moment. We have this ridge here off the Pacific, just barely extending towards Alaska and the Aleutians, and over to the north over central Canada, we have a polar vortex, which is centered around central Canada and extends a little bit to the east. We have blocking here, well above normal height anomalies, extending all the way across the pole, back on the other side of the globe. So this we're going to pay attention to this feature here over Greenland and Iceland. This is an eastern-based negative NAO. In order to get cold air down into the United States and our area of the United States in this type of atmospheric setup, you're going to want this ridge to be farther to the west, a west-based North Atlantic oscillation, which will then push this polar vortex to the west and allow a polar flow to bring cold air down into the United States and also suppress the jet stream a little bit so these storms aren't cutting to the north. Look at the GFS model at 138 hours, so this is the end of this upcoming week. You say, hey, the pattern really hasn't changed much. And if you're thinking that, well, you're correct, because look at this. All the cold air is still bottled up to the north here over Canada, and we have a shortwave in the southwest United States, but once again, the southeast ridge is still there, and you're thinking probably, hey, maybe no blocking has developed. You'd be correct. In fact, the blocking has weakened over Greenland and Iceland as it rebuilds here to the north on the other side of the pole. But it's also important to notice some of the changes that have occurred here over the pole and western Canada, because the polar vortex is undergoing some major changes, and this begins in the stratosphere. So it's being elongated here. You can draw the polar vortex here all the way from Russia down through Alaska, or the Aleutian Islands, and into British Columbia. This is the polar vortex, and it extends now over the Davis Strait and into the NAO. This is a positive North Atlantic oscillation. And when you have this and you have the negative Pacific, the negative PNA, you're going to get a southeast ridge, and it should probably be more amplified than this just looking at the pattern, because the only semblance of blocking that we have here extends into northern Greenland. That's it. The Central Pacific ridge, which was extending up to the Aleutian Islands, is suppressed by this massive polar vortex. This is a bad look if you want winter weather in the Northeast. So yeah, you're going to get a southeast ridge here by the end of next week. I wouldn't be surprised to see another warm-up if these ensemble forecasts are correct. And looking here to the right, most of them are in pretty decent agreement that we're going to get the polar vortex to split, and as it splits, it's going to split off into a positive NAO for a while. But the important thing to notice here, more so than this, you can just look at this and say, oh, this is terrible. Look at the changes going on in the pattern. First, this is going back to 36 hours now. This is for Monday, coming Monday. Here's this ridging, which originally, a couple weeks ago, we had a monster ridge over the Aleutian Islands. Then it built back over Russia. So we're having a wave pattern develop here, where it's ridge, ridge, ridge. Now we have a monster ridge here, and if we fast forward to 156 hours, now we have this monster ridge over on this other side of the pole. So it's slowly making its way towards Iceland and Greenland. And this is when we're going to start to see some major changes in the pattern. Let's fast forward to 288 hours in advance. And although the signal is kind of weak and the ensembles are all over the place, you can see there are above normal height anomalies now over Greenland and the Davis Strait. And this is the part of the pattern that the meteorologists throughout the community are concerned about and are looking at and watching very carefully, because this type of shift in the pattern, when you have the polar vortex being completely shifted to the west, moved around, and you have a ridge swinging around the pole to Greenland and the North Atlantic, this is the type of pattern that can bring major changes and can eventually result in winter weather in the eastern United States. One of the driving forces is the MJO, the tropical forcing. You can see here, we track this green line. Let's not pay attention to this solid red line or blue line. This is that's the older MJO activity. Track this green line as it comes out of this circle of irrelevance and moves into phase 1 on almost every single ensemble. This is the Euro. The Euro ensembles moves the MJO into phase 1. We're going to pull up the December composite for phase 1. And what a surprise, it looks very similar to some of the stuff we're seeing on the ensemble guidance. Here's the blocking and the above normal height anomalies over Greenland and the below normal height anomalies over much of the eastern United States. And you can see this is not a small sample size. We have plenty of dates in here with a composite anomaly for phase 1 MJO in December. So this definitely adds some confidence to the fact that a change is going to be coming of some sort by mid to late December with this MJO forecast. And most of the ensembles, as you can see, in good agreement that we're going to see an impulse here with the MJO moving into phase 1 and then maybe eventually phase 2. We're going to look at the European ensembles in a similar way that we looked at GFS ensembles. And what I'm going to say here is that with this pattern coming up, more than anything, I think over the next week or two, at most, we're going to hit a crossroads here. If you're looking for potential for snow and wintry weather developing, we're going to hit a crossroads in regards to the North Atlantic Oscillation, NAO, and the blocking over Greenland and Iceland. We have 3 blocking highs over the high latitudes on this image. This is the 24-hour European. There are 3 blocking highs at the high latitudes near the pole. This is not similar to last winter in any way, shape, or form. I've seen so many discussions on various weather outlets about how so far the forecasts look similar to last winter with a southeast ridge, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something about last winter. Last winter there was a monster piece of the polar vortex that sat over Greenland and the North Atlantic and Iceland with a very positive NAO, and the other piece of that sat over Alaska and the Northern Pacific. This year could not be any more different. There was no blocking to be found across the high latitudes until the end of the winter, and that forced the cold air on the other side of the globe last year. So this is a totally different beast. When we look at the European ensemble here at 24 hours, you can see there is an east-based block, and this is very important to watch, because an east-based NAO block does very little for us. That brings our pattern is more dependent on the Pacific side then. Once we have this weak east-based block, our pattern is more dependent on what happens out here in the Pacific. So you see, right now the NAO might be negative, but it's weak. And you look out to the Pacific, and we have a trough in the west coast, a negative PNA. And what happens as a result? The southeast ridge is able to flex its muscles and pop up, and we have above normal temperatures, and the storm this week is tracking well to our west. If the NAO were to be west-based, and this ridge were extending over to this area of the Davis Strait and western Greenland, this southeast ridge would be so suppressed that the storm right now could have the potential to bring us wintry weather. That's how much this, that's how dramatic the effect can be with a west-based NAO. So we'll move forward here to 192 hours on the European ensembles, and now we have a major change ongoing. The main area of ridging is still on the other side of the pole, but now we have above normal height anomalies building all the way from Greenland through the Davis Strait and into northeastern Canada. The southeast ridge is now suppressed because of this exact feature which we just spoke about, and the polar vortex here out of the Pacific, there is a polar flow which is dumping cold Arctic air into the western United States, which these are below normal height anomalies, much below normal height anomalies, with cold air filtering into the continental United States. And then by 216 hours, now we have some major developments here. There is a great signal as far as the anomalies go. For above normal heights over Greenland and the Davis Straits, this is a west-based negative NAO. This is completely suppressing the southeast ridge, which is now over Florida. And if you look back here to 24 hours, this southeast ridge was all the way up over the mid-Atlantic, and now it is suppressed to the south. And we have these below normal height anomalies with the polar vortex over western Canada, stretching down to Alaska and into the western United States and central United States now at this point at 216 hours on the European model. Notice this buckle here in the upper level flow. This is a potential storm system around December 18th, which we are keeping our eyes on, which could provide wintry weather to the eastern United States if and only if this NAO is west-based and negative and this ridge can build into Greenland. We'll take a look now. The European at 240 hours. This is still a positive height anomaly at 500 millibars with a negative NAO and a ridge, a blocking high over Greenland, the Davis Straits, northeastern Canada. This blocking in the high latitudes extends all the way up to the pole, and you can see now the European model's ensembles. This is an ensemble mean, still has this buckle in the upper level flow here over the Mississippi Valley with a jet stream suppressed to the south and plenty of cold air available. Here are the temperatures at 850 millibars in the 12Z for the 11 to 15 day mean. This shows it as well. Polar air here over Alaska dumping into the central United States. A below normal height anomaly over the east, so this indicating below normal temperatures days 11 to 15 at 850 millibars. And look at the ridge above normal temperatures over Greenland and northeast Canada. This is a major crossroads in the pattern. If this does occur, there will be the potential for wintry weather around December 18th and 20th with this impulse, which all models and ensembles are indicating will be there. It's hard to say exactly what kind of system it's going to be, how strong it's going to be, blah blah blah. But seeing this type of dip in the mid-level height field is impressive for this range. If this blocking is east-based, like we talked about, if this ridge here, these above normal height anomalies are shifted over towards Iceland and eastern Greenland, you can count on this storm cutting up into the Appalachian Mountains, and the storm's going to track into Buffalo. So this all can be thrown out the window. This entire discussion as far as potential wintry weather, the storm still looks like it has a good chance to happen, but this entire discussion can be thrown out the window if this is an east-based negative NAO block, because there is no reason then for the southeast ridge to not amplify, especially with this below normal height anomaly on the west coast. The 12Z GFS ensembles, I'm just going to use this as a point of reference. We're going to flip back and forth. Here's the Euro and here's the GFS. That is, I mean, pretty remarkable agreement here. This is 240 hours away, people. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. The main difference being the GFS with slightly higher heights here in the west coast, ridge axis around Boise, Idaho, and also farther east with the storm system over the central U.S. But also, the GFS is less enthused with the blocking. It's arguably a central to east-based NAO here. Much less enthused. Here's the European, which builds this block all the way down into Newfoundland. Well, the GFS are much less enthused here with the NAO, so this storm system could theoretically cut up to the north. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we're going to hit a crossroads here in this pattern where the North Atlantic is going to be very important. Most models are very consistent with the fact that the polar vortex is going to shift to the west here and develop a flow that could bring polar air into Alaska and the western United States. That's fine. We have a negative PNA. There's no ridging out in the west. So that's not going to help us. We're not going to have a ridge out west to bring the cold air in. We're going to need the NAO to develop a west-based, it's going to have to develop in the west-based region over Greenland and the Davis Straits if this pattern is going to flip to bring more wintry weather. If it does not, much of the same will continue, similar to what we're seeing right now. So that's where we spoke about the crossroads and the pattern. That's where it exists. So it'll be very important to watch over the next, like I said earlier in the discussion, the next week or two, to see whether or not the models are correct with their development of this west-based negative North Atlantic oscillation, and there's ridging over Greenland and the Davis Straits, which historically, this composite with a ridge out in the Bering Sea and a ridge over Greenland and the Davis Straits, which historically has produced some impressive snowstorms in the Northeast and an impressive gradient pattern, where you get a baroclinic zone running from the Mississippi Valley to the Northeast, and you could get very strong precipitation events, widespread precipitation events with southerly flow and plenty of moisture coming out, and a tight gradient, because this block does not allow the storm to track to the north. So then you get overrunning precipitation, and there's cold air to the north, and you have plenty of moisture coming up, and it makes sense. You think about it as far as sensible weather meteorology, it makes plenty of sense. If this block is not here, then the storm system will cut well to the north and have no problem bringing warm air advection into the area. So this is the crossroads we're at. Most of this is still 10 days away, so you don't need to go get your snow blowers or your shovels out yet. But we're watching it very carefully, and we'll keep you updated with more videos as we get closer to the event, and winter may or may not arrive beginning around December 15th. We'll keep you updated, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you guys soon.